Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of CJ Mack Video Podcast. First of all, I want to make it clear that I work hard to bring you guys this history and information that you weren't privy to in decades prior to now. I want to apologize to anybody that felt offended by the video. My original intent was just for fun and laughs in reply to Jamel's video, which was funny, very humorous in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people thought so also. Today's topic is Jamel Barnes' video. Should I have left it up or should I have taken it down?
You should already know when I walk in the door that it ain't no use in frontin' on me. You should already know when I walk in the door that it ain't no use in frontin' on me. You should already know when I walk in the door. You should already know when I walk in the door. You should already know. You should already know. You should already know.
Now, when you go to my page or my Instagram page, there was a few people that spoke out against the video I put up. However, if you go to Jamel's page, there's nobody speaking out against him putting up his video or his daughter egging the video on. I never knew we had so many physicians in the hood until I did this video. Now everybody want to be neurologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and all that. Everybody got an opinion about what CJ Mack is doing. But my question to these people are, have you reached out to his daughter to see if he's mentally stable or if she was willing to take the video down?
You should already know when I walk in the door that it ain't no use in frontin' on me.
Today's show is going to be a good one. I'm going to get CJ Mack on the line. I'm going to have Cutes come on the line. I'm going to take some other calls and play some other messages that you guys have for me. We're going to go to the phone lines now. Yeah, we had lost you, Melle Mel.
I'm back, man.
Yeah, I was saying for the listeners that didn't know who you was, that you from Compton, Oaks Park area. And
right, I'm original Oaks Park.
And you had a front row seat to the Red House.
Oaks Park and Midtown became eventually Santana. The two was meshed together and created a super gang, which became Santana Block.
Right. Did you ever see Jamel up at the Red House?
You know what? I never saw Jamel at the Red House. I always saw Jamel Tookie with whatever Tookie. When I always saw Jamel was always in LA.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, man, Jamel is one of them cats, man. He has that mercurial mindset. It's a cat that's always got a mood swing or all of a sudden change of mind, you know. And if you listen to him talk throughout the years of the things he has said about Stanley Tookie Williams or Raymond Washington, has not really been positive. You know what I mean? Because they're not here to speak for themselves. He get to say whatever he want, and nobody can even speak on their position. Because clearly, if you look at the East, if you look at the West, you look at the Compton, the two names that's going to stand out as far as whatever, I don't know what Jamel is trying to prove. Is he was talking, he wasn't a leader. He was not that. He didn't start the Crips, East or West, or Compton. Tookie was in all. If you think about this, Kevin. Tookie was on the West Side. Tookie was on the East Side. Tookie was in Compton. Who else did that? Who else? Give me one name.
I mean, you had a few people that went to
Compton. Raymond is responsible for the East Side, but if you think about it, Raymond never really made them crossed all them different lines and them different cities and them different sets.
Right. The only few names I could think of was going to Compton to hang out with Tookie. And that would be your Barefoot Pookie.
Monkey Man, Barefoot Pookie. Yeah. Barefoot Pookie, Monkey Man.
Yeah, but I agree with you because Tookie made Compton his home. He lived in at least 2 or 3 different addresses in Compton. And then,
right.
And then don't forget Watts. He was hanging out where the PJ Watts are.
But that's and when I say the East Side, I include watching that. But you're right, watch stand alone by itself because the East Side was one thing and watch was another. But when you think about that, Tookie had the whole pie, man. He wasn't a slice. Jamel Barnes is a slice. He might even been the crust. I don't know. But I know Tookie was the whole pie. The first time I laid eyes on Barefoot Pookie, we was down at the showcase. I don't know if you remember this showcase. It was on Adams and Crenshaw.
Yep.
And all them stories that people ever said about him not having no shoes, I saw that. You know what I mean? They ain't just no urban folk tales or nothing like that. That stuff or myth or whatever people create. These are real stories, man. This dude is a real dude. Tookie was a real dude. Jamel, he's a real dude, but he was more like for me, a mascot. He was a big dude on swole. You know what I mean? I'm sure he had some dudes that looked up to him and he, sort of carried that torch a little bit. But he didn't have the love or he didn't know how to embrace or bridge the gaps like Raymond and Took. Or even Barefoot Pooh.
Right. So look.
The dudes in Compton love that dude.
So look, you used to see Tookie and them buffing at the Red House, right?
On a regular day.
And you never seen Jamel up there.
Never seen Jamel.
How about Big Jack?
I seen Big Jack.
Okay. All right. Well, shit, man, I want to thank you for your call, and I want you to come back on the show and co-host with me. And
anytime, bro. Anytime, man.
Yeah,
and you know me, I'm about to put the truth out there, man. And if anybody's out there that feel like, challenge me on what I'm saying, I welcome that. Whatever they want to do, man. Pookie started some sets in LA. Yeah. And I know some dudes, they probably want to differ about that, but that's what he did, Right.
All right,
but anyway, man.
Thank you for your input, man. I'll be reaching out to you.
Without a doubt, man.
Right, peace.
CJ Mack.
Yeah, I got the king of LA, CJ Mack, on the phone. How's it going, bro?
Man, I'm good, bro. What's happening with you, man?
Not much, man. Just talking about this Jamel Barnes saga, man.
Yeah.
I know you've been on this platform before, so you already know to get out on the videos. Have you been able to see any of this Jamel Barnes stuff going on right now?
Oh, yes, indeed, man. I stay tuned into your work, man. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're a historian, man, and that you bring about facts from each and every aspect of Los Angeles, man. And, the people, the originators, and people still involved in this and that. You covering the whole gamut, man. I love it. So, yeah, I'll stay listening to your stuff. And, yes, I did get a chance to check it out.
Well, some of my critics was crying about taking the video down. So as a rap artist, has anyone ever asked you to remove a song because they didn't like you talking about dope?
Well, not necessarily that, but some other things. A couple people, I probably ruffled a couple feathers, and that's kind of how the game go. You know what I mean? Like, rapping, which is the primary art form that I was involved in. It got disrespect and people having opinions and things, and sometimes some people say something to you, and sometimes you fire it back. You know what I mean? So it's all part of the game. And no, I wouldn't say I don't take nothing down. If I said it, I meant it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's bottom line that we can get over it or whatever. That's always been my motto with it.
Yeah, to keep it 100. When I went to sleep, I laid down. That's when your best thoughts come to you, and I felt kind of bad for the dude, man. And a lot of people think he got mental problems, and if that was the case, then I thought it might be a good idea to take it down. But I don't really think I did nothing wrong or said nothing wrong. In fact, last night he typed a response saying the only problem he had with me was that I went and got accused to discredit him, and that was never my intent. How that came about is Jamel repeatedly put me off on interviews, and so I wasn't able to get him. So the next best thing is to ask dudes that was around him about him, and that's all that was.
Right. Well, you just out getting you are what I And then if I'm incorrect, correct me. You're a street journalist, man. I mean, it's nothing more than what you're doing is you're reporting facts. Those facts are going to come from different sources. Some may not be factual. You may not never get to the truth. You know what I mean? So, it's up to you in your mind on how you feel. If you feel like, you know, uh, the outcome wasn't something that needs to be out there, then obviously that's up to you. You know what I mean? We weren't around in those times from those guys. Those guys, dudes in their 60s. You know what I mean? Some of them dudes in their so you're gonna hear this, and there's always folk tales. So you're gonna get different opinions from everyone, and that's part of the interesting thing about what you do. You get to hear the perspectives from different people. I learned a lot of things about different areas in the city listening to your work and watching the interviews and stuff. So you're gonna get different opinions, man. So it's up to you on whether or not you feel like, well, maybe this interview, not me myself, but maybe this content pushed the line and it may offend some. So kind of like up to you on how you feel about that.
Right. And if I crossed the line and poking fun at him, I mean, even he thought it was humorous because his video was humorous. He's telling jokes and pretending to be serious at the same time. He's making crazy faces and gestures, and what people don't know, me and Jamel and his daughter, we've corresponded many a times for several months on Instagram. And so, I kind of know how he is. He kind of know how I am. And obviously, if he threw my name out there, he knew I was going to respond, just like he responded to Cutes and Big Jack and whoever else. You know what I mean? So I think people are taking this out of his original intent, and they think I'm laughing at him and not with him. But at the same time, I think putting those articles in there to dispute what he was saying, I think it really offended some people because a lot of people can't accept the truth.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to say each man's version of the truth. People want to believe what they want to believe from who they want to believe it about or from. So, you know what I mean? So, all you doing, in my opinion, is putting the information out there. Just like I did with Seawalk. When I did Seawalk, my opinion didn't really matter. You know what I mean? I just put it out there. This is the information I'm getting. This was at the time the Clown Walk guys. This was some homies was like, oh, well, I don't want to see no kids turning into no clown walker. Some people were like, man, let the kids do whatever they got to do. So you're gonna get many opinions, and that's what makes an article or a piece interesting. So there's going to be different opinions about things. And I think that's the interesting aspect of it.
Even being in the industry for so long, man, and about monetization and royalties, your income. It's true that controversy sells, but the misconception is that I'm making a lot of money when I'm not. And if anybody is familiar with YouTube, they know when you're using somebody else's music, such as Ice Cube's No Vaseline, or some of the music I use in the Inglewood Families and the Santana Blocks, I can't monetize those songs. So it's just a big misconception about me. And obviously, if they think all the videos I do, including the response to Jamel Barnes, is about making money and exploiting the culture, that's so far from the truth. But I want to say to you, man, I appreciate you being on here, and I hope to work with you soon, man. And I know you got a flight to catch, man. Be safe, and I hope everything that you work on prospers, bro.
Thank you, bro. 100, and I always support you, man. And one thing about you that I know, because I spent many hours with you, whether on the record or off, that you're doing what you love, and that's why I want to come together and work with you on some things, because you're doing what you love. And everybody got opinions, man. You know what I'm saying? Like your opinions is like I don't know if I can cuss, but opinions is like a-holes, man. Everybody got them at the end of the day. So, do what you feel is right and continue entertaining people, man, and doing what you love, man. I'm proud of you for going out here and taking the effort. Everybody got an opinion, man. You know, when all they got to do is tell the story themselves, they can pick up a camera and do it too. So it's easy to holler from the sidelines, man. You know, Shaq can't shoot a free throw. Shaq getting 136 million when he was playing. You see what I'm saying? It's easy to be hard to shoot, but he in the game. You in the game, so that's what my advice to you with all that is: you in the game and stay in the game and let everybody else scream from the sidelines.
All right, for sure, bro. I'm gonna be hollering at you.
I want.
All right, caller, where you calling from and what's your name?
Maya Hampton, Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay, I'm familiar with you, a long-time follower, right?
Yes, of course.
Today's subject is about the video I put up in response to Melle Barnes. Did you get a chance to listen to it?
Yes.
What you think about it?
I really had loved the video. You know, it spoke the truth. Somebody finally called him out on his lies that he always telling. The man is a big bully. He don't tell the truth about nothing. Always speaking bad about Raymond Washington, Tookie Williams. The list goes on, on. He always make it seem like he was there when he wasn't. You know, just crazy.
So do you think this guy suffers from dementia or any mental problems?
No, he know what he's doing. Of course, you could tell the man know what he's doing.
Do you blame his daughter any for egging this on?
I blame both of them because both of them are grown. They both know right from wrong.
Well, I took the video down after a few hours, and a lot of OGs have been calling me, asking me to put it back on because it's a piece of art, and it shows that a lot of the things that he's saying are not true. And all I did was present articles and use his own words against him. And I showed in the book Uprising, which I believe is like a 1994, 95 book. And he was saying the same thing back then about meeting Tookie after Raymond died. People have a problem with that. And I think people don't want to hear the truth. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of people get mad at the truth. I don't understand that. Everybody should want to know the history and the culture and the facts about this lifestyle because there's a lot of people out here lying about your lifestyle. It's not right. So the OGs and you are speaking the truth. People should love that.
I don't think nobody really had a problem with Cute's interview. They didn't express that to me. But when I did the response, everybody went crazy and came to his defense. I shouldn't say everybody, but I mean a lot of people came to the defense and start blaming it on his psychological aspects, or mental problems. But they didn't seem to go on his site and say nothing about that, or ask him to take his video down, or say anything about his daughter. So I'm just wondering why it's okay for them to keep saying my name and disrespecting my platform.
Haters gonna be haters. To me, you should have never took the video down because all your videos you ever put out there be truth and facts. I've been following your work for many years now, and I will advise you to put that video back up because he always lying. I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm not even a gangbanger.
What purpose would it serve for me to put the response video back up?
The purpose is because he keep lying. You know, these men are dead now. You know, he need to respect the dead. He need to respect the culture. He need to respect the history. And it's just not right. You know, if you gonna speak on something, speak the truth. Don't make it seem like you was this big triple OG. You did this and that and you wasn't.
Well, in all due fairness to Mr. Barnes, he was there in the beginning, and he does have a place in history. But I think people have a right to defend their homeboys, especially when they're not here to defend themselves. I want to thank you for your call, and I'm gonna try to get some other OGs on the line and see what they got to say. So you enjoy your day, and I hope you continue to enjoy the content.
Yo, what it do, Kev Mack? I was once told by our OG homie that either Avalon Gangster Crip or Avalon Garden Gangster Crip was once Crip, then they turned Blood, then they turned back to Crip. Uh, I don't know how true that story is, but that's one thing that I definitely heard on more than one occasion. I mean, I don't know if you speak to anybody in Avalon Gardens or anybody that's Avalon Gangster Crip to verify that, but that sounds very interesting because I look at some of Jamil Barnes' interview, and he seemed like he was probably cool with the Bloods at one point in time, and that's why it kind of sounds believable. If you could have anybody verify that, that'd be cool.
I don't know the origins of 88 Avalon. I do know the Walnuts were in close proximity, and they were what you call a non-Crip gang.
Hey, what's up, Kev? I would like to see an interview on the origins of Shotgun Crip. All right, let me know. Later.
I agree. The history of the Shotgun Crip should be a good one. I'm laying in the cut for Big Shiphead or one of his older homies. Until then, I'm just like you, man. I'm laying low and waiting on it.
OG Kev, what's the word? This Mills the Stones from Southside Queens. But what's up with that I think part 4 or part 5 of the Inglewood families? Was this deleted or something? Was it like some copyright shit going on? Get back to me, bro. Let me know what's up.
Parts 2, 3, and 4 of the Inglewood family were removed. It had nothing to do with copyrights, although there was music in there. And there's a lot of guys going up for parole, and we didn't want to hurt their chances. I got OG Cutes of the Magnificent Seven on the phone. How you doing today, Cutes?
That's pretty good, man. How's everybody doing this afternoon?
Hopefully they're doing well, man. A lot of people want to know about your friendship with Jamel and what you think about his mental state. They kind of want to know if you could explain what might be going on with him.
All right. First of all, I want to make clear that Jamel's behavior is unbecoming of who I remember him to be. When we grew up together, we went to Washington High School. I met Jamel in 74. That's when I introduced him to Stanley. Like I said, Jamel was never a gangbanger on the west side. If he gangbanged on the east side, who did he gangbang with? And this is how this goes. Around the end of 1970, almost 71, Raymond and them went up in the air, turned these guys into Crips. It was before people called themselves Blood, so their projects was never Blood. Their projects was the Avalon Garden Boys. It was just a set, and there was a few of them, but the projects wasn't that big. There were some good dudes that come out of Avalon that I ran with that was bangers that were in juvenile hall with me. Jamel Barnes, he was like the general of that project. Can't take that away from him. But he did not gangbang with Raymond Washington in 68. He didn't turn into Crip. Crip wasn't put on the Avalon Gardens until the beginning of 1971. That's when Crip was put on Avalon Gardens. Before that, it was just the Avalon Garden Boys. So he was not a Crip then. He was just representing himself, just like Domingo Patrol or Kevin Goff and them's gang, the Stanley Boys. We would name our gangs after our street, the Magnificent Seven. All of these gangs were named over by where we lived at. We gave ourselves names because the seven represents 7 here. So that's the street that we would all meet up on 7. And that's mostly how gangs were. The A-Tray Gangsters, they got their name from their street, 83rd Street. When we had the Dinka Crips, they got their name from their street. So that's where the names come from. Jamel, his family member, is the one who's behind all of this. She's the one who puts the camera in his face. She's the one that tries to provoke a response from the opposition. And what we against is his telling of the story. He's not being factual in his telling of the story. He's trying to make himself look like more than what he was. So therefore, that's not true. If it's not true, someone has to have the courage to come on and say, hey, man, that's not true. What you're saying isn't true. No one has disputed or refuted that. For me, no one has came on camera and said, hey, man, he never went to Washington. Have anyone ever heard that? No. You know why? Because he went to Washington and he was attending it in 1974. He was never an original Crip because the Crips started in 1969 on the east side. They started in 1970 on the west side. He was never an original east side Crip due to the fact that his projects didn't get turned into Crips until the early part of 71. So that takes the wind out of his sail right there with his, accusation that he gang banged in 68. In 1968, I gang banged too. If I want to say I gang banged with the Brims, if I want to, I could go earlier than that. When I lived on Ascot, I could say, I gang banged when I was around the guys who lived over there that were East Side Outlaws. When I was a baby, a little kid, I was exposed to what they were doing, the weed smoking, hanging out in the house, seeing the weapons. Kids are in their environment, they could see a lot of stuff when they're coming up. But I can't claim that, I'm gang banging with East Side Outlaws. And that was before 1968. Now, if I want to get real funky with it, I could go deeper, and I could say when I lived on 52nd by the park over there, and I could say, okay, man, I was a businessman too, because my father, he hung out in the park, and all of his friends apparently were businessmen.
All
But
right,
I don't say that.
so when you say he didn't gang bang, you talking about like fighting, shooting, putting in work type of thing, right?
Exactly. His only gang banging came in when the East Side was pushing up on him to turn. He tried to resist that in the early stages, and he gave in. That was the only time he had a little friction with people. Sure, he might have had fights in elementary school. Who didn't? What kid in the inner city has not had fights in elementary school? Tell me one.
All right, so let me ask you, when there's guys that's between my age and your age, they were little kids back then, and they seen Jamel leading the pack. What was that all about?
When we would be up at Centinela Park, the little kids would be like amazed by yokes. So they would be like, oh shit, look at these big old dudes, because we grew up watching cartoons. So little kids is like, they still in their cartoon mind. They're like, wow, these guys look like Hunk. These guys look like the cartoons that they enjoyed watching. So little kids were attracted to that. Plus, little kids feel powerless. Most of them came up in single family homes. So they're out there in the community now. They see someone, with a lot of brawn, and the person's, acting like he's not mean. So automatically that attracts kids. It attracted me when I was a little kid. I hung out with the big kids. I don't want to get just pounded on. You hang out with the bigger kids because when you grew up in an environment and you don't feel that safe in that environment, you want to be around people who's going to be down with you. You got to show that you're down too. The little kids like the Jamel. Little kids love Tookie. When we would come through the park, they see Miles, Tookie. All these guys were on super swole. They were nice guys, and people liked it to be around them. Plus, these guys cracked jokes. These guys were funny, and they were enjoyable to be around. The girls liked being around us and everything, so it was cool. Those were fun times. Jamel wasn't acting like a weirdo that much, but he would go into his little mental trips, like getting quiet, not feeling comfortable, because he actually never really fit in. And I don't know what that comes from, but he never really fit in. And another guy attested to that during his time that he experienced with him, that this guy really didn't really fit in. And I don't know if people made fun of him because they were jealous of him or because he was awkward and doofus. When you're going through adolescence, you go through an awkward stage. And I don't know if that didn't settle well with him, but every kid goes through that, and they usually come out all right, But that's just normal, and he tried to fit in on the West Side best he could. I mean, I had to stop Bird Dog from getting him. I had to stop Smiley from Trey from getting them. And I mean, I was working full time from getting them all the time. And this would always take place when we were out in the open, when we were in the crowd, because Jamel would try to put a little too much on it, and these guys are bangers. And we all know that Jamel wasn't a banger. He was a poser, but he was friends of Tookie, and Tookie was respected. And some people I say, well, Tookie wasn't the founder of the West Side. Tookie wasn't this. Tookie was that. I'm from the West Side, and I'm letting you know that Tookie was one of the 4 founders of the West Side, and Tookie was respected. And
All
so
right, in
Jamel
my mind, you know, certain guys that wasn't in the mix, you know, had a front row seat as a kid standing on the porch. They see Big Jamel in suspenders with the big muscles, big afro, leading the pack. So I got this mass hysteria that this big old guy was the leader. But when you really in this gang bang stuff and you're not a square from the outside looking in, anybody could be leading a pack at any moment. That doesn't make you the leader. It means you
no,
was in front of a crowd of people when you marched
yes,
up in a park, a
yes,
store, or a gathering, a party, or what have you. But that
yes.
never makes you a leader.
No, it makes you a leader. A leader is the type of person who will lead the regiment of soldiers through the back alleys into another neighborhood, and you don't have a gun. And when you turn out into that neighborhood, you may be outnumbered. I recall a time when we were at the Watts Festival, and this was like in the early '70s, and things didn't jive that night real well. And then we had this other gang over waiting for us in McDonald's. We had another gang coming down the alley toward us, and we had this big old melee right there on Central, and it was pitch black dark at night, and we're out there fighting like cats and dogs with each other, and the police never came, and we just out there fighting. The only thing that uh, made people disperse and go in their separate areas is because the helicopter had finally came. The helicopter finally came and lit us up, and then everybody started going back their own ways. The only people who lived in the area was the bounty hunters. They didn't have far to run to get back to their area. You had you had the Pyrus. They had a little distance more to run. Then you had us. We came all the way from across Florence, and the buses ain't running. So we had a long way to get back home, you know. But that's just how it is. And a leader is the type of person who will lead you right into that and not turn around. Once you see this, once you see the opposition, you go toward it. And that's the type of people that I consider as leaders. You know, I don't consider a mascot a leader. Jamel, he was more of a big mascot. He would be up there with us. The reason he wanted to be around us is because for simple interests that he had. He enjoyed lifting weights. He had to come on the west side because he got ran off the east side because he got in a conflict over there and there was gunplay, and he wound up on the wrong end of the barrel of that. So for survival of the fittest, I mean not survival of the fittest, for self-preservation, his mother, his family had to move him from over there. So he got love when he came over there on our side. We wasn't hating on him. And then when people would try to get at him because of the way his manners are, and he doesn't really know how to interact good with other people, then God blessed him for me to be in his environment at those times, or
Are
he
you
wouldn't be here today.
are you familiar with a guy named John Seals?
Yeah, I used to lift weights with him. He used to lift weights with me and Munson. He was our friend. And let me tell you this. Let me tell you the story about how this went. All right. So he had already had conflict with Raymond and them. He had already had conflict with guys on the west side. He was a banger. But let me tell you something about him. He would ride his 10-speed down Manchester. He would meet us on Western. We would walk him from Western, and he would be on his 10-speed up into Babe's gym, and he would work out with me and Craig Munson. And I told him, I said, hey, man, it ain't no problem. You could come over here and buff with us all the time. And he was a good-looking kid. He was strong. He was down. He was cool, and he wasn't scary. And he ain't never showed me a gun. When he would come through there, he never acted like he had a weapon. He would always have a slingshot on. He was a cool brother. And Munson liked him, and I liked him. And he hung
So
out with us. He hung out with us much as he could and lifted
so
weights with us.
so what I wanted to know, the reason why I brought that name up is there's rumors that him and Jamel didn't get along, and there's also a rumor that he might have been a walnut or some type of brim at one point. You know anything about that?
Yeah, that's not true. Of anything, he would have been the founder of the Walnuts. Of
Okay.
anything,
Okay.
along with the bourgeois, along with
Okay.
Michael and them and that family, and
Right.
the Walnuts were some good brothers. The Walnuts would fight. The Walnuts, there were some good bangers in the Walnuts.
Mm.
They were a young gang. They didn't last that long, but they were a young gang. A lot of people don't know about the Denver Lanes, about and Snake, my friend Snake. The Denver Lanes is an older gang than the Walnuts. The
Right.
Denver Lanes is an old blood gang. It's been around a very long time.
Right.
Bunyan, Paddlefoot, all of these guys. I know all of these guys, man. These guys were bangers. You know, some of them rest in peace right now. You know, but I grew up with these guys, down the streets, man, Figueroa. I've been around these guys. Jamel was never a gangbanger. I don't know why his daughter puts him out there. Maybe he tells her these stories that when she was a little kid, and she actually believes this stuff. And she says, "Well, this is my daddy, and I want to put him out there so he could set the record straight." But I think it's more sinister. I think that there's a cop element to it. I really do. And there's clergy that gets involved. This preacher dude, he tries to stick his nose in our business. We would never, ever join a church and let the preacher dictate to us what to do. The type of preachers that I really hate are the type of preachers that throw the rock and hide their hand. They have pumped their congregation up to go and picket in front of an abortion clinic because they don't think it's a woman's right. You know, the shit gets real political when you get into this gangbanging OG shit. And these preachers are real scandalous. They receive money. What do they do with the money? We the poor people. So it's a lot of shit there that I don't like. So therefore, I don't like when the clergy tries to get involved in this OG stuff. Now, you have this character, Jamel. He's always, got one foot in the church and one foot on this main line, and he's already rolled it up off the main line. So if we want to look at it in the prison sense for all you G's out there, I consider him an SNY. He's in special needs. He had to leave the city. He can't come back to the city. He can't do like OG Cooch and stroll through St. Andrews Park with a slingshot on. You think he could do that? I just
No.
did that.
No, I can't do that. So
Do you think he could go down on a 67 and go through the heart of where the Deacon Crips originated from and stroll down there and be asking for people? You think he can do that? No, he can't do that. He didn't burn all of his bridges with the people. So his voice should not resonate anymore for the simple fact that he did not withstand the litmus test, and he's a liar. And the people behind him are false prophets.
well, let me ask you. Let me ask you how you feel. I mean, you were locked away for more than 32 years, and your good friend was executed on death row. And when you hear about the things Jamel had to say, and you come home, how do you feel about somebody talking like that about your friend?
Well, it hurt my feelings first of all, and rubbed me the wrong way because I'm the kind of friend. If you were in, say, you were in San Quentin, and I'm over here in Folsom, and someone's talking shit about you, and you're my friend, and I get word that they talking shit about you, I'm gonna confront the conflict, and I'm gonna get to the root of it. And if that person talking shit doesn't have nothing valid, doesn't have no paperwork, and he's just rifling off at the mouth to try to just stir some shit up and give you a bad name, then he's going to get a fair issue of what he got coming to him. And that has happened on several occasions, behind the wall, in my experience and in my existence behind the wall. And for this guy to have this loud mouth to say the awful things that he did, I know what motivated him to do that. And what motivated him to do that started with a COP. And you know what that stands for, right? So the pigs were behind that, and he was their mascot. And a lot of time has went by, and so they could put this weirdo up there, and he could say whatever he wants. the Black Panthers had their conflict with the US organization. There's always something going to be made to conflict the mass and where the people want to go and what the people want to be about. They're always going to bring an idiot and put him, over there to start some dissension within inside of the ranks so we could start this conflict and have this shit going. But this guy is clearly unstable, and he's nothing of the man that he used to be, and the man that he used to be, he never was a banger, but he was still a man.
So do you feel like we're being a bully by responding to his remarks?
No, because if we didn't respond to his marks, then the opposition, the cops, and whoever the clergy, who's ever else behind it, that tried to dilute, our OG history. The bottom line is that they don't want Raymond Washington or Tookie to be idolized.
So
And
how do you feel, Cutes, when you hear that your good friend Raymond Washington was knocked out by this guy, and the things he says, 10,000 Crips in 1968.
This is what's so absurd about what this dude said. Before Raymond Washington went to prison, I hung out with him. After he came home from prison, I hung out with him. I was Raymond's friend from almost day one when the West Side turned into Crips. I came on board in the late part of the 70s. Raymond Washington was my friend ever since that day. Raymond Washington would come over my house and get me in the 70, in his 53 Chevy, and he would be with Barefoot Pookie or Michael Conception in the car. And they would come and get me every weekend. And we would go to places like the Kappa House on Crenshaw. We would go to any type of dance that was being given up and down Western. DJ's Ballroom. We would bank up in that shit. And when we would go to places, we didn't go there to party. We didn't go there to talk to girls and get telephone numbers. We came there to handle gang-banging business. That's what we did when we went out. We would go to record hops inside the other parks. That's what we would do. And we would have friction in those parks because the boss Tom Cross record hops was record hops for G's. Only G's experienced those record hops. Then later on, Raymond left the set. He went away for a long time. He came back in 76, and we were together all the way up until 79. That's how our friendship was. And when a buster says that he knocked him out and that he hit Raymond, he's an utter lie. And he did not participate at the long table because he didn't have a plaque. The only people that could be at the long table was active gang members who had a say-so within their clique. He didn't have a clique, so he did not have a plaque. He was not a member of anti-self-destruction. He was not like my buddy Caesar said. That's what it stood for. But Benny Ray Simpson, that's Bulldog. When you see that newspaper, Benny Ray Simpson, that's Bulldog's real name. That's his birth name. So he didn't have a part in that.
I'm aware of everybody that was in that article, but can you give me a roll call of some of the leaders or whatever you would call them, shot callers or big names that participated at the long table?
Yeah, you had Elgin representing the Brims. You had Doty was locked up at the time, so you had what's my brother's name that had the LTD, the one I had mentioned. He was there. You had Big Rat from the Brims. You had Celestine from the Brims, who was a banger. You had on the Crip side, you had Bulldog for East Side. You had Sugar Bear. You had Little Bam from the Denver Lanes. Let's go with Big Snake, one of the founders. You had Paddlefoot. You had Bunyan. Those were some of my Denver Lane buddies that came up in there. Then we had guys from the Inglewood family. We had a lot of members from the Inglewood. I don't know if Jan Brewer had a plaque at that time, but he was worthy of a plaque. And the Inglewood family, they made an effort at the piece, there. And you had Little Caesar, so they had a plaque. They had the Magnificent Seven. they had a plaque. These were guys, once they agreed to quit, banging on each other, the city had peace. The parks were open up. You could go where you wanted to go, and you could enjoy your night out, without even having to worry about anything. And then if you saw your brother in the street, you could pull over and say, "Hey, what's up, man?" It was cool. These were cool times. It wasn't like I'm caught slipping. There was no caught slipping in because everybody that was actively gang banging was actually get along. The Pyrus, they didn't really want to buy into it, but then again, they did buy into it to some certain extent. Because when they arrived that night, then nothing happened. We all sit there and talk and everything. But
So who were some of the Pyrus at the table? Was AC Baba Louie there?
Oh well, when the Pyrus came that night, AC Baba Louie, they went in the back room. Puddin went in the back room. Big Butler, I think he came that night. I think Lug was there. Bartender came that night. They came with about 4 or 5 cars, and they pulled up on the side, and we could hear their glass packs. But like I said, around this time, I think Baba Louie had a black Eldorado, cool ass Eldorado, because he was almost like in his Mackin stage, like the transition stage, but yet he was still keeping rings on what he helped found.
Okay,
So he was there. Yeah. You broke up. Yeah, I'm still here.
I had got a phone call. How about Black Dog from Venice Shoreline? Was he there?
Oh yeah, Black Dog represented Venice Shoreline. He was there. Fact of the matter, sometime I would give Black Dog a ride there. For the Brims, I forgot to say Big Country. Okay. Big Country was like one of the founders of the LA Brims. See, the Brims have a lot of chapters.
How about Babyface from Rolling 60s?
Oh yeah, Babyface from Rolling 60s. I forgot to name the 8 Trays too. The leader of the 8 Trays that were there. We had Big Rayford, Sidewinder. He was there. We had him. We had, I think Hunchy may have been locked up back then. But we had Smokey. He was there from 8 Tray. There was a lot of 8 Trays that would come through there.
How about Dead-Eye Clint from Eastside Crip?
Oh yeah, Dead-Eye Clint. He would be there, and man, there were just a lot of good, strong brothers there, man. Black from Hoover would be there. Green Eyes was there, and you had a lot of good Little Bam. He was there.
How about the Blackstone Brims?
Oh yeah, you had Blackstone Brims. Yeah, I almost forgot, and we had Hoover families too. So we had a Shaft from the Blackstones. We had him there. We had some Hoover families there. And you know how we met all of these guys? Gangbanging. And we had to go in their neighborhood and ask them face to face, would you like to be a part of this? And we would go up to people's door and knock on it and say, man, when they would open the door, they would be like, oh shit, but we come in, they asked you, do you want to be a part of this? We all knew where each other lived. We grew up in the city. Everybody knows where everybody lives.
Right. So
that's how we would grow.
So let me make this.
Me and Raymond pulled up on the Villains together, and Hatchet Man's what was it, like a 1969 Ford Galaxy. We put up on the leader of the Villains, and he thought we were going to get out and blast him. He started backstepping, and we telling him, "Nah, man, wait a minute, man. We just want to holler at you." And he thought it was his last day. Mm-hmm. And he was so happy when we said, "Hey, man, we want you to come with us and go up to this long table and sit down and represent your neighborhood, man. So the little brothers don't be walking around getting, busted on this shit." Mm-hmm. And the brother in the car with us.
So tell me what Tookie and Hoover Joe and big names like that, Barefoot Pookie, well, he probably was in prison at the time. Russell Capers, what were some of the guys like that at, the heavy hitters?
Okay, so for instance, let's look at Hoover Joe, first of all. I always give Hoover Joe the credit for starting the 7-4 Hoover Crips. And Hoover Joe and Tony Stacy, we joined these, we were the first gang to join together as allies. And we joined the Dinker Crips. A lot of people didn't know that the Dinker Crips' first allies was Cutes, Hoover Joe, and Tony Stacy. So that was the first gang that joined up in those early days right there. And so Hoover Joe, he was locked away in YTS
Okay.
because Hoover Joe never spent a lot of time on the street as a juvenile because he was an outright gangbanger. And the same for Tony Stacy. He didn't spend a lot of time on the street either. He was always in the hall or Nellis. And
what was Terry Cadeau at?
Terry Cadeau was a banger too. But Terry Cadeau at this time was free. And Terry Cadeau was a member of the Long Table. Yes.
Okay.
We would always go to parties and see each other out there in the streets. And he would be dressed well because they're in the used car business and trucking business. So they always had money. And they were always ballers, considered ballers in the gangbang thing, but they were bangers.
And what year did
Russell Caper and James Miller and them, they were just about to get their case and get locked up. That's for sure. Just about to get their case and get locked away for with their L's.
For those that don't know, those are Harlem Crips right there. Cutes, man. What year would you say ASD and the Long Table started and ended?
Well, it started in 1976 and it ended in 1976.
Okay, so it's safe to say in 76, Jamel was no longer a factor in the Crips?
No, he was not at the brawl at the Long Table. I hate to say that the Long Table ended in a big gang fight. We had a big gang fight on Broadway. It spilled out on Broadway, and we had a big gang fight. Things were falling apart, and the ties that bind us together wasn't strongest. The ties that put us apart, and we had the police not wanting us to be together. We had a lot of people who didn't want us to be together because they looked at us as a bigger threat.
So that was the spillover of COINTELPRO, basically.
Yeah. And some brothers lost their lives, for sure. And that was awful.
Yeah, Celestine got killed around that time, right?
Celestine had got killed. Salty had got killed around that time too.
Okay. Salty's from the Grandies in Compton, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, man, I'm going to end this, man, and I'm glad you came on and spoke, man. That was a good 30 minutes of just pure giving some insight to you and your friendships with Tookie and Jamel and
Raymond Washington.
Raymond as well. I before we go, though, I want to try to make something clear in response to one of the critics as well as Jamel. When I met you and did the interview, did we discuss Jamel Barnes ahead of time?
No. That was a burning desire. That was a burning desire that I had within me that had been inside of me for quite a long time. And
did at any time did I ask you to discredit Jamel?
No. You didn't know what I was going to talk about.
No, and I didn't read.
Because
I didn't read the question.
No. Everything was spontaneous. Because when a person is real and they solid, the chapters of their life is still inside of their mind. If they didn't dilute their mind with drugs and they don't have no recall, I can ascertain everything, within inside of my mind that I have remembered and stored. It's still there, just like a book. I had a lot of time to sit in a concrete cell and think about shit, more time than the average individual. My mind has been conditioned to take extreme suffering without breaking. So, that's how I roll.
Right.
And so some weak person, gets up there and try to perpetrates that they this and they that, and now I got an obligation to discredit them. I will, but I will discredit them with facts. And for all you Jamel fans out there, you could still continue to be Jamel fans. I'm not trying to get you to come over on our side because simply we don't need people like you anyway. Because you have already been, deceived and you already, following the mascot. And for his daughter, if you want to keep doing your father like that in the name of love, then you sure got some, weird love because you need to knock it off. I mean, why don't you just have him come on and make some videos about God or make some videos about, at-risk youth? Why don't you let him talk in that area? But he doesn't need to create any type of, you know, false person that he was this and he was that in order for people to want to be a part of what he's a part of. And if you think that that's why you got to do that or you're going to lose his fan base if you don't, then you're absolutely wrong. Because what you're going to do is destroy his fan base. Because I'm going to continue to tell the truth while he's continuing to tell a lie.
Well, I know that I talked to several of my big homeboys that's a lot older than me, and they all spoke highly of you, Cutes. So I want to say your opinion and your facts are very welcome here, and I like your conversation. I like the fact that you don't have distorted information. You may make one or two mistakes. That's just because we're human, but
Exactly.
but I know you don't have no foul intent on anything you say, and for those that think I was nitpicking at Jamel, I just want to say that I also put in there where Cutes had Jamel's age wrong, and
Yep.
and the only reason why that's all I put up is because I couldn't find any misinformation in Cute's story, and
Everything
so
you kept it very objective, and that's the type of person you are. And if there's anyone out there who don't believe that Jamel went to George Washington High School in 1974, prove it. And all you have to do is get the school record. I was about in the 12th grade then, and I was around in the 11th grade. So why don't you check your facts out, and you'll see his name there. And if he's there, he couldn't have been on what he said. And he couldn't have been around in 68 talking about he's an Eastside Crip, because the Eastside Crips didn't come about until 69. And his projects didn't get turned into Crips until the beginning of 1971. So therefore, he was not a Crip at all until 71. I was a Crip in 1970.
all right, Cutes, I appreciate it, man, and I hope you have a wonderful day, bro.
All right, peace out, bro.
Man,
That's going to do it for this episode of Kel Mack Video Podcast. I want to send a big shout out to Mark Taylor in Canada. I want to thank you for your contribution and the kind note that you left for me. It is greatly appreciated for all the hard work that I do in bringing you guys the real and bringing the real to those fascinated with the legends and the true origins of the Crips and Bloods. For those that want to contribute, go to www.paypal.me/allhood publications. You'll see All Hood Publishing pop up. Enter the amount you wish to donate and send. Also, for those that are interested in Kev Mack clothing, go to bear-image.com/Kev-Mack clothing. Also, we have a Patreon account at www.patreon.com/KevMack. I want to thank CJ Mack for calling in. I want to thank Cutes for spending this time with us. I want to thank Maya Hampton for calling in. And I want to thank the guys that sent in questions. When you watch our videos on YouTube, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at BigKevMac1. Thank you, and have a good evening.